You left the corporate world for freedom. So why are you feeling more lonely than ever? Generation X is leaving the corporate 9-to-5 in record numbers and walking into a social desert nobody warned them about. So here's some strategies on how to exit the corporate world without the loneliness. Okay, today's episode, we are going to be talking about leaving the corporate world and the potential loneliness that ensues, and how to combat that, maybe how to transition from your corporate life into a self-directed social architect that you're going to be losing. We'll be explaining that here. I got a PowerPoint presentation to share. And I'll go like that. From the beginning, Gen X can maintain social connection and avoid isolation after exiting the corporate world. Number 1, mastermind groups and structural rituals. The psychology, external commitment devices, and identity anchoring. Corporate life provides what behavioral economics called force structure. Social interaction happens by default. When you leave, you lose what psychologists call situational scaffolding, the environment that prompts behavior. Mastermind groups and weekly rituals replace this with external commitment devices, social obligations that can't easily be canceled without disappointing others. Identity anchoring. That matters here too. Humans need to answer, who am I? Corporate roles provide ready-made identity. Positions like I'm the VP of X, or I am this person in this department at this level. Post-exit mastermind groups give you a new label. I'm a part of this group. This prevents identity diffusion. The anxiety that comes with losing a clear self-concept. So it just basically gives you purpose. Replaces that corporate title that was given to you by a corporation to perform certain tasks, giving you that status and the perks, etc. You'd be the go-to guy or whatever that may be, to entering into a group and still being somebody who's identifiable as maybe a subject matter expert or an authority on something, but you have more control of the group that you're part of, as opposed to work where you're kind of delegated a group of people. The reciprocatory principle. Regular meetings create obligation loops. You show up because others expect you. They show up because you do. This artificial obligation becomes genuine connection over time. So you be a part of these mastermind groups or these groups that you join. Sitting back and just observing probably isn't your best option in this regard. You want to interact and let yourself be known. So when you do show up, people recognize you, and you interact with the group, get to know each other, and build relationships that way. And it'd be more genuine than, being thrown into a work environment where you may or may not gel with people. Number 2, co-working spaces, the psychology, weak ties and social proof. Sociologist Mark Granovetter research shows weak ties or casual acquaintances, coffee shop regulars, are crucial for well-being opportunities. Strong ties, close friendships, provide support, but weak ties provide bridging capital, connecting to broader communities. And you're seeing it. The old guys going to the coffee shop, especially when they're retired. That's exactly what they're talking about here. They have a set time that they usually go for a set period of time, and they go and they have their coffee. Everybody has their own chairs, and they sit and they just talk and chat and interact with the day's like current events or what's happening in town, or maybe some gossipy stuff. But that's kind of what they're talking about here. Weak ties, right? You're not letting them too far into your life, but just enough to keep that kind of social interaction going. Co-working spaces also leverage social proof. Seeing others working creates what psychologists call ambient belonging, the sense that you fit in somewhere even without an interaction. This silently combats the social exclusion threat that triggers cortisol spikes when we feel isolated. So that could be like being a fan of, like, for an example, being a fan of a sports team of some sort, and, you know, being out and about and seeing somebody wearing the jersey and you're just chatting up that way, talking about that sports team or whatever that may be, and a common connection that you may have, but you don't know each other, right? Another sense of belonging. Number 3, volunteering and team-based activities. The psychology, generativity, and the IKEA effect. Erik Erikson's development stage placed middle adulthood, 40s to 60s, in the generative versus stagnation phase. We need to feel we're contributing to something beyond ourselves, or we experience existential dread. Volunteering satisfies generative needs, creating meaning through impact of future generations. The IKEA effect, people value things that help build. When you physically build something, habit, or shape a young person, coaching, you develop effort justification. Your brain convinces you the experience was valuable because you invested energy into it. This deepens commitment and connection. Shared adversity bonding. Team activities trigger in-group formation psychology. When people work towards common goals, even low stakes ones, oxytocin and vasopressin create trust bond. This is why military units, sports teams, and volunteer crews form tight connections quickly. And I guess that's why team building is a thing these days. Cross-generational mentoring. The psychology, generativity, continuity, and cognitive flexibility. Mentoring young people serves dual psychological functions. First, it extends generativity. You literally shape the next generation. Second, it prevents cognitive rigidity, the tendency to calcify in one world's view as we age. So that's like staying in your box of thinking. Neuroscience shows that novel social interaction with different people from us stimulate prefrontal cortex and promote neuroplasticity. Talking only to Gen Xers creates an echo chamber that accelerates perceived obsolescence. Intergenerational contact forces perspective taking, keeping you mentally agile and socially relevant. So, not to keep yourself inside of a Gen X echo chamber, talking to the younger generation and seeing their viewpoint of the world, because everything changes. Nothing is the same as it was back in the 80s and 90s when we were growing up. It keeps you kind of in tune with their perspective, their point of view. And it forms connections and bonds with the younger generation. The neuroplasticity, I kind of like that. I'm going to do some more research into that and probably make an episode on that as well, because that just seems like, something that's going to keep you moving forward, staying fluid and staying open-minded. Now, status transfer. Teaching others also satisfies confidence needs. Self-determination theory. Corporate life provides constant feedback that you are capable. Post-exit, mentoring recreates the efficacy validation. Number 5, rebuilding social infrastructure. The psychology, the social baseline theory, and habit staking. Neuroscientist James Cohen, social baseline theory, argues humans regulate stress through proximity to others. Alone, your brain treats the environment as threatening, effortful. With others, the brain relaxes in its threat detection. Post-corporate isolation literally increases cognitive load. Everything feels harder. So that's why, things work better as a team. Like, no man is an island. You can't do everything at once. You get into the micromanager parts who can't delegate and share the load. That's not a good way to operate. And then you take that away, like you retire. You're no longer in the workforce. You don't have that opportunity to build those connections and maintain that kind of relationship structure, I guess you could say. Habit hacking. Adding social elements to existing routines. I'll get coffee at the shop where I know the regulars. Reduces friction costs. The willpower required to initiate social contact. The brain defaults to the path of least resistance. Smart social architecture makes connection the easy choice. The 18-month rule. Research on major life transitions, retirement, relocation, career change, shows social reconfiguration takes 12 to 18 months because it requires a grieving process, letting go of the old identity. And the trust recalibration, learning who your real allies are. Expecting instant connection creates performance anxiety and paradoxically drives withdrawal. So yeah, you got to give yourself some time to readjust to your new environment, I guess you could say. And that's the same for retirement. So you figure you end your career 12 to 18 months later, you should be well into something established, social networks. I don't know if you want to call it a career path, but things that'll keep you busy. Your new social paradigm, your new social dynamic should be established within 12 to 18 months after you let go of the corporate life and what it had to offer for social outlet type thing. 6, third spaces and being a regular. The psychology. Place attachment and predictability. Humans develop place attachment, emotional bonds to physical location, third spaces, neither work nor home. Provide ontological security, the sense that the world is ordered and predictable. Being a regular creates social scripts, known interactions that reduce social anxiety. The mere exposure effect. Familiarity breeds liking. Seeing the same face weekly creates illusory intimacy. Your brain treats familiar faces as safe, eventually converting recognition into genuine affection. Weak time maintenance. With baristas, gym staff, or shop owners, providing microdoses of belonging that accumulate. Research shows that low stakes interactions buffer against depression as effectively as deep friendships in some contexts. So these weak tie maintenance, these weak tie relationships that people have, like, yeah, sure, they don't have the deep, intimate connection that, say, a good friend would have, but with those weak tie relationships, you're still getting the same kind of acceptance and belonging, especially in a town or a place where you kind of gel with the mentality of people and that. So yeah, it's important to keep going out and about and seeing people rather than like buying stuff off of Amazon. You can't interact with people when you buy stuff off of Amazon. Even the Amazon drivers just drop their stuff at the door and leave. You don't have a conversation with them, as opposed to going to like a local shop and purchasing something and having interactions with the owners or other patrons of the place. You're there for a common reason, so a good chance you might be able to strike up conversation and form one of these weak tie relationships. Number 7, selective corporate tie maintenance. The psychology, the Dunbar layers and transition or objects. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar research shows humans maintain concentric circles of relationships: 5 intimate, 15 best friends, 50 good friends, and 150 acquaintances. Corporate exit disrupts these layers. Maintaining some corporate ties act as transition objects, like child security blankets, familiar anchors while building new structures. Oh yeah, I can relate to this. Being laid off from a company or whatever, you still kind of keep in touch with your a few of your coworkers that may have got laid off at the same time. They're in the same boat until some time passes and you rebuild your worldview or your whatever you're transitioning to, and then they kind of fade off. But it's true, it helps you through that. It helps you through that time, kind of like a security blanket of sorts, right? Nostalgic psychology. Periodic contact with former colleagues trigger rosy retrospection, tendency to remember the past positively. This is delusional. It's emotional regulation. Nostalgia buffers against loneliness by reinforcing continuity of self. The sense that your past and present are connected. All right, the meta psychology from extrinsic to intrinsic motivation. Corporate social life is extrinsically motivated. You're paid to be there, forced to interact. Post-exit social life must become intrinsically motivated, done for its own reward. Self-determination theory says intrinsic motivation requires 3 nutrients: autonomy, choosing your people; competence, feeling socially skilled; relatedness, genuine connection. The strategy above deliberately engineered these nutrients. Mastermind groups provide competence feedback. Volunteering provides relatedness through purpose. Co-working provides autonomy with structure. The ultimate psychological shift. Corporate life makes you a past recipient of social structure. Post-corporate thriving requires becoming an active architect of your social world. That shift from managed to self-directed is the core development task of this life stage. So basically it's saying when you were in the corporate life, your job, you were forced into a position where you had to socialize with people, like you said, you may or may not have got along with. When you leave that environment, when you leave your corporate job, you are the director of your social network. And maybe you do that probably out of work anyway, right? Although a lot of people do center their identity with work, and even off work, they'll socialize with people from work, which I don't think is a great idea because you have to separate that. You spend a lot of time with your coworkers already, right? So spending your days off with coworkers, you're kind of pigeonholing yourself into the loneliness epidemic when your career does come to an end, and it will, whether you want it to or not, it will. And then you're stuck with an identity crisis, if you will, because your entire identity was stuck with the corporation. If you can start weaning out and building a social group before your retirement, say you're going to be retirement in the next year or two, if you start applying some of these techniques or these ideas to building a social, self-directed social network outside of the corporate world, you'll be better off. Maybe that 12 to 18 months won't be so long. Maybe it'll be, right away, because you've already had that group built, that social network built outside of work. So it's just an easier transition if you build that social network outside of work. If you're at the point where, hey, I just lost my job and I don't think I'm going back, I think I'm just going to retire, but you're still in this social limbo, it might take 12 to 18 months, depending on how you build it. It's all up to you, though. You're self-directed. That's it for the presentation. Yeah, so social isolation after you're done your job, after your career is over. So what are you going to do? You could, base everything off of your leisure activities, or you could get into different projects. Not being forced to be with anyone socially, any kind of group socially, but if you're retired, you got to do something, and you got to have that social interaction. The weak ties are just as important as the strong ties. Your strong ties are not going to be as many strong ties. Weak ties, there's probably going to be lots, depending on how much you go out and about and you interact with people. The weak ties are going to probably lead to other opportunities and other interactions. So they're just as important as your strong ties. I think a well balance between the both probably would be the ultimate. But again, you're the architect. You're the driver of your future, of how you want it to go. Anyway, with that said, I think that'll be the end of this episode. If you made it with me this far, thank you. Like, comment, subscribe. If you have any interactions you want to comment on, just leave a comment in the bottom, and let's stay engaged. Anyway, we'll talk to you later.